The mayor of New Hope, Texas says that people have shown, quote, overwhelming support after she came out as a transgender woman.
In an open letter to her town, Mayor Jess, formerly Jeff Herbst, writes, "As your mayor, I must tell you about something that has been with me since my earliest memories. I am transgender." She went on to write, "I live my life as a female now, and I will be performing my duties to the town as such." With us now from Dallas, Texas, is Jess Herbst and her wife, Debbie. Mrs. Mayor and Mrs. Herbst, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Herbst, what prompted you to write this letter to the town? And tell us how the community has reacted to it.
Well, I'll start with the second one first. The community has been, as I said, overwhelmingly supportive. Everybody has expressed their desire for me to remain as mayor. Everybody has been just wonderful. The reason I wrote this letter was last year when I was appointed mayor. I was appointed, not elected. I was elected to my position as alderman and mayor pro tem, but our previous mayor passed away. So I was appointed to that position. And I realized if I was going to be mayor, that I had to let people know about this. I could not be mayor and be honest with the citizens and be Jess. I had started 2 years prior to that with HRT, and my original thought was just to kind of resign and slip off and live my life alone. But the town needed a mayor. It was handed to me, and so the only thing I could do is to tell everyone. I wanted to tell people face to face, but that's impossible to do with even just a town of 700 people. So I told all the council members one at a time, face to face, by my planning and zoning board, my family, my friends. I realized that once I told the city that everyone in my life would know, so I had to take a little time ahead of and make sure that people that I'd gone to school with, that people that I worked with, everybody knew. Once I had as many people out of the way that knew and understood, I was down to just the general citizens, and the only way to address them was to either go door to door, which was a daunting task, or to write this letter and post it on social media. So I wrote the letter, I rewrote the letter, I rewrote the letter. My wife looked at it, my daughters looked at it, and then I posted it about 2 weeks ago.
And Mrs. Mayor, how concerned were you about your colleagues' reaction, and how did the community react?
Well, honestly, most of my council members I was not real concerned with, because I've been on the board for so long, and most of these people are close personal friends. I knew them very well. I knew that they knew me personally. They knew that this was not going to affect how I did my job. It was just how I appeared to them, and so I wasn't particularly worried about that. With the city, honestly, it was a gamble. When you're in a very small town in rural Texas, and we're a town of horse ranchers and farmers, you never know exactly what's going to happen, but I really had no choice. This is who I am. If I was going to continue to be their mayor, they had to know the truth, because I could only do my job if I was honest.
Well, it's wonderful that the town has been so welcoming. I think that sort of speaks to who we are as Americans in this very politically charged atmosphere that we're in right now. This is sort of the type of thing that you, as an American, you feel very proud of. But I have to ask you, Mrs. Mayor, Texans may soon have a bathroom bill like the one in North Carolina. There's currently a proposal in the state legislature that could require transgender people to use the restroom, which corresponds to the gender on their birth certificate. What's your reaction to that?
Well, obviously, I've said this before, but I'm completely against it. Right now, anybody attacks anyone anywhere, bathroom or not, it is against the law. There is a law in place already to protect people. Adding a bill that prevents transgender people from using the bathroom, it's just merely a discrimination bill, particularly when you say the bill that the gender of their birth, not on their birth certificate, but how they were born. So if you were a post-op transgender woman for 20 years, you would still have to go to the men's room. And one thing that they never ever think about is that this also sends trans men into the women's room. And the women are not going to want a large, burly trans man. Most of these trans men are very, very masculine, and it is not what anybody wants at all. This is just a reactionary bill. It's a way to make headlines. It's a it's a political goal that you can do that you don't feel like hurts anybody, because they feel like we're such a small minority of the population that it won't matter. We'll discriminate against them. That'll make us look like we're doing something when we're really not doing anything at all. The law already exists. And I don't know anybody who would say, gee, I don't mind breaking the law about attacking people, but that law says that I can't go in the bathroom. That one I'm not going to break. It's just silly.
Debbie, I want to ask you what your reaction was when Mayor Herbst said that she wanted to come forward as being transgender.
I mean, it's been a long process, and we've gone through it together. So it wasn't like it was a surprise for me or anything like that. It was a very gradual thing, and I've been very supportive throughout the whole way, and so have our children.
We've been married for 36 years, and although neither one of us knew or understood the term transgender in 1979 when we first started dating, I was always open about my feelings and how I was. Didn't exactly know what they were. Like I said, had never even heard the word transgender. So over our marriage, it has been a learning process, and we've grown and learned together.
Debbie, what advice would you have for other spouses whose spouse may come forward as being transgender? How do you cope with something like this?
I mean, Jeff and Jess and I have been close, soulmates for such a long time. I think if you love each other, then you can just accept it and work through it together. It's really not that big of a change.
Yeah, well, and Debbie and Jess, you talked about your children. What's the dialogue with the kids been like? How have they reacted to this? Presumably because, as you point out, Mrs. Mayor, you've sort of always known this about yourself, even though you didn't perhaps have the proper terminology to describe it, that maybe the children have always sort of known as well?
Well, my oldest daughter, when she was the first of my children that I told, when I told her, she just looked at me and said, "Oh, that explains everything."
Oh.
As they were growing up, it was pretty much me that dressed them. I helped them with their makeup. I helped them with their hair. And it seemed like that was my place in the family to do. And she was immediately on board. Her task at that point, she decided was, well, if I was going to do this, I need to do it right. So she's like, let me see you walk. Let me see you sit. No, don't do it that way. Come on, let me show you. So she immediately took the role of my coach. Her younger sister, who's a year and a half younger, the very first moment, she was very shocked, but she was not good with change initially. I mean, if I cut my hair, it kind of bothered her when she was little, but within an hour, she was on board, and she has been my strongest promoter. I mean, she wears it like a badge of honor. She says, my father is trans, and it's like, this makes her cool, I think she likes to say. So I couldn't ask for a better reaction from my children.
It's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Mayor Herbst and Debbie Herbst. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you for having us.